It felt like a whisper at first, a quiet murmur passed from one viewer to another in hushed tones. Something was terribly wrong at Daystar television network. People who tuned in each morning for encouragement and uplifting music began to wonder if the warmth and comfort of that screen hid a painful secret. Behind the scenes of the network founded by Marcus and Joni Lamb, a network built on faith, healing, and the promise that God makes all things new, there lay an accusation so grave that it shook the entire community. Had someone in Joni Lamb's own family hurt her precious granddaughter? By the time the story broke wide open, it was everywhere. Social media feeds filled with rumors and speculation. Church foyers buzzed as elderly women clutched their rosaries, unable to reconcile their love for a ministry that spoke of holiness with the idea that evil might have touched a little girl in its midst. And for Jonathan and Susie Lamb, the parents at the center of it all, every day was a mixture of hope, fear, and crushing uncertainty. It was the summer of 2021 when Jonathan and Susie packed their bags for Miramar Beach, Florida, where Daystar had rented a beach house for its annual executive retreat. They looked forward to poolside prayer meetings, inspirational talks by network leaders, and afternoons spent building sandcastles with their 5-year-old daughter. They thought it would be a time of refreshment for their family. Instead, they say, it was the beginning of a nightmare. They recall a moment so quick that at first it felt like a dream. They walked past the bedroom door and saw Pete, a family member they had always trusted, alone with their daughter, and the child was undressed. In their words, they froze in the hallway, hearts pounding, unsure of what to do next. They confronted him immediately, their voices trembling. But the answers they got only stirred more questions. It was an accident, I didn't know she would take her clothes off, he said. Nothing made sense. Certain they couldn't keep it to themselves, they called Joni, their grandmother, expecting a swift vow to protect the child. Instead, Susie recalls an uneasy meeting. Joni urged restraint, suggesting they trust that family would sort this out. Susie remembers being told not to involve the police right away, that they should handle it in prayer. To her shock, Joni asked to speak alone with the girl. According to Susie, after that private conversation, the little girl never spoke of the incident again. For 2 years, Jonathan and Susie carried the story quietly, fearing the blow it would deal to their church, their family, even their own faith. They feared the scandal. They feared disbelief. They feared the network might retaliate. But they feared more for their daughter, whose giggles still filled their home, yet whose silence on that summer day spoke volumes. Finally, in late 2023, they could remain silent no longer. They filed an official report with the Colleyville Police Department, naming only an unidentified preschool classmate, the name they say the child herself gave. Investigators began a preliminary inquiry. The network, meanwhile, issued a statement that the matter was closed almost before it began, insisting the original allegation did not involve Pete at all. Questions swirled around small-town Texas. What really happened at that beach house? Why had the report named a preschool friend instead of the man they had confronted? Journalists began digging, and soon the Roy's Report, an independent outlet focusing on faith and the church, published extensive interviews with Jonathan and Susie. In those interviews, they said they believed the preschool story was a cover-up, that the network had pressured them to change names to protect its brand. Once the story went public, Daystar's lawyers leapt into action. Michael D. Anderson of Kelly Hart sent a letter to the Roy's Report demanding retractions or threatening litigation for tortious conduct. The network's official statement stressed that Daystar had always taken any hint of misconduct seriously, that they had fully cooperated with law enforcement, and that the police found no evidence to charge anyone. They even highlighted that Pete had volunteered to take 2 independent lie detector tests, so-called life lie detectors, and passed them both. A lie detector, or polygraph, is not proof in a court of law. Experts point out that though it measures stress indicators like changes in heart rate, it can be fooled by someone who believes they are telling the truth or who has been trained. Yet for many viewers, the mention of 2 past tests felt like a solid defense. Faithful audiences saw vindication for a beloved family member, skeptics saw a smokescreen to distract from the pain of a child. In May 2025 came the final chapter, at least for now. On May 14, Colleyville police officially closed their investigation. A terse statement announced there would be no charges against Pete, citing insufficient evidence and noting that the victim has not made an outcry. They reminded everyone that in Texas, there is no statute of limitations on child sexual assault, so if new evidence or testimony ever emerges, the case can be reopened. The news rippled through social media like a stone tossed in a pond. For some, it was a balm of relief. They had believed in Pete's innocence all along and felt vindicated. Daystar supporters praised the network's transparency and its respect for due process. Others, however, felt a hollow ache. No charges didn't mean innocence, they argued, just that the legal threshold hadn't been met. And they worried about the little girl, whose voice was the one thing that could bring clarity but who, at 5 years old, may never have fully understood what had happened or had the words to say it. Susie resurfaced online almost immediately, reminding everyone that police closures are often procedural. She explained that most children don't speak out about abuse until they are grown and ready. When our child is ready to speak, she will, Susie wrote. Then the case will be wide open again. This tug-of-war between faith-driven trust and the quest for justice led many to ponder deeper questions. How do we care for survivors while protecting the rights of the accused? How do institutions founded on spiritual authority handle the ugly realities of human failure? And most pressingly, how do families heal when the wounds are inflicted not by strangers, but by those they love? Amid the uproar, Daystar's internal dynamics came under fresh scrutiny. Jonathan, once poised as a natural successor to his mother in the network's leadership, felt marginalized. Leaked emails in which he pressed for formal guarantees about his future role showed a family and a corporation wrestling with power, legacy, and succession. Joni's supporters insisted that Jonathan's demands crossed a line, that he risked the network's stability. Jonathan's backers saw a son fighting to protect his family's ministry and to ensure his own place in its future. Through it all, journalists reached out to every corner of this story. They spoke with legal experts who reminded readers that a no-charge decision is not a declaration of innocence, but a reflection of evidentiary standards. They interviewed child advocates who stressed the importance of creating safe spaces for survivors to speak, whenever they are ready. They asked faith leaders whether religious organizations should adopt independent oversight to avoid conflicts between spiritual loyalty and the pursuit of truth. Many people who had once watched Daystar every morning found themselves torn. Could they trust a network whose founder had advised silence? Could they forgive a family that seemed to put its reputation above a child's pain? Or did they believe in grace so deeply that they could hold both truths at once, that false accusations can destroy lives, and that real victims deserve every chance to be heard? And what of Pete himself? He has maintained his innocence from the beginning. His supporters say he volunteered for questioning, cooperated fully, and underwent lie detector tests to prove his innocence. Yet he has rarely spoken publicly. For his sake and for the child's, police sealed much of the record. In the quiet moments, one wonders how he bears the weight of suspicion, and whether a community built on prayer can restore trust once shattered. For the little girl at the heart of it all, the future remains unwritten. She may never remember that beach house, or she may carry the memory silently into adulthood. If she ever finds her voice, the law stands ready to listen. But her journey to healing will depend not on court rulings or polygraphs, but on the love and support she finds every single day. In recent weeks, Daystar has resumed its regular programming, as if the scandal were a pebble beneath the water's surface. But for many viewers, the ripple effects continue. Parents ask their own children about safety. Grandparents look more closely at the trust they place in institutions. Communities talk with renewed urgency about safeguarding the vulnerable. What this story teaches us, what it demands of us, is compassion without naivete, faith without blindness, and the courage to hold institutions to the highest standards of accountability. It reminds us that evil can lurk anywhere, even in the most sacred-seeming places, and that our first responsibility is to protect those who cannot protect themselves. It also reminds us that endings in real life are rarely neat. Though the police have closed their file, the human story goes on. There will be tough conversations around dining room tables, counseling sessions, and prayer circles. There will be moments of doubt, moments of grace, and moments when the right words feel out of reach. For viewers of Daystar and for anyone who cares about justice, the call now is to stay alert, stay compassionate, and stay engaged. Subscribe to our channel if you want to follow every twist and turn of this story. Hit the bell icon so that as new developments unfold, you'll be the first to know. Share this article with friends and family, especially those who look to faith-based media for guidance, so they can be part of the conversation. Because at the end of the day, our greatest hope is that truth will prevail, healing will come, and that a little girl's story will be told in full, in a way that honors her voice and her dignity. And in that hope, we find our greatest calling, to seek justice, love mercy, and walk humbly together on this winding path we call life.